Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. I'm even questioning if this should be called the Last Word on Spurs. The way it's going over here. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, on Spotify, and Audio Boom. We're across a range of different audio platforms. We're of course on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too, and we are back. Not reviewing a Tottenham Hotspur match, possibly not even previewing another one to come the way it's going. But I'm delighted to be welcoming three great returning guests to the Last Word on Spurs. First up, listen, this man needs no introduction at all. He's providing a lot of the entertainment for tonight. We've got a massive quiz at the end. Yes, I've gone and given it away. I didn't sport it. We've got the brilliant Jan Vennegoor of Hesseling in the house. Jan, how are you?
Oh, good evening. For the lack of Conference League this evening, I thought I'd go with a continental flavoured name, just in case any of you boys and girls out there was missing the Conference League, because you know how much we're all missing the Conference League. And Rick, apparently, if we get slung out and we don't get to play Rennes, I think we drop into the Eurovision Song Contest and we've got Engelbert Humperdinck away in the next round. So,
I'm still back.
Let's see what happens.
I'm still battling us to bottle that when we come to Bosnia. I reckon Bosnia will nick that off us in the last minute. I might be wrong. Who knows? But for us as an audio who can't see him, of course it is Richard Cracknell. He's not Jan Vennegoor of Hesseling. Although the way this show's going, don't be surprised if he makes an appearance with the lack of games we've got coming up. Who knows what we can get on this Last Word on Spurs, the way it's going. Also, delighted to have back on the show. Currently got a film out at the moment that a lot of you should be watching. If you're not, he'll be reminding you of this throughout the show. We've got the brilliant actor, Ricky J. Norwood in the house. Ricks, how are you, my friend? Lovely to have you back on the show. Sorry, it's no game to talk about.
Oh, mate. I mean, we might have to change the name of the show to Only Word on Spurs. Do you know what I mean? Because what's happening, eh? What is happening? And no champagne tonight. If there's no games, there's no champagne, all right? So, yeah. I mean, and yes, the film is out right now on Netflix called Princess Switch 3. I was in 2 as well, which was out last year. But there's 3 films there. It's Christmas time. Jump in, enjoy.
Can I just say also, Rick, with the lack of games right now, you've got absolutely no excuse. You haven't seen the second one to go back and watch the box set, right? Absolutely no excuse whatsoever.
Absolutely. Do all 3 of them. You know what I mean? And the last one is a bit of a heist as well. So it's around Christmas time, but there's a heist, exciting bit going on as well. So loads of hijinks, loads of fun, loads of jokes. You'll enjoy it. Trust me.
Totally agree. Like I say, check that out. We'll be dropping some sound bites on that throughout the show. Quite literally, the way it's going here with the lack of games, we might get Rick to put some of the script in here to kind of get us going for the next hour or so. Also, delighted to welcome back on the show. It's been a while. Last time he was on, he was previewing a game. Now he's just previewing. I'm not sure what you're previewing, Jake. I'm so sorry. We've got the great Jake Lambert, comedian in the house, and my God, we need some comedian effects the way this season is going with the lack of games. Jake, how are you? Lovely to have you here.
I'm good. It's good to be back. We can just, if you want, we can just review the last word on Spurs, then preview the next last word on Spurs. We'll just start reviewing and previewing the own podcast. That's all we've got.
Do you know what? That's not a bad idea, though, the way it's going now. So feel free to give us critique, give us feedback, and tell us what you think of the shows and where we can improve. We'll drop a Survey Monkey, and if we've got time, the way it's going over here, we'll see what we can
Riggy, why don't we have like a goggle box of Last Word on Spurs, where we have like 4 other guests watching 4 guests talking about the Last Word on Spurs. But have you noticed Gogglebox is never on Gogglebox?
Never.
Why don't they have Gogglebox people watching Gogglebox? Can you imagine? I'd like to see that. It'd be like typing Google into Google, wouldn't it?
You know what? It's the funniest thing. It's always me watching you, watching I. It'd be a very confusing situation for my wife. You know, a clue what's going on. She's watching me now. Then she's watching me before. Then she's trying to watch me in person. That's enough to make her want to turn off. So, you know what I mean?
Rick, I think they're all cottoning on, but we're just trying to pad a show out here because there's no football.
We're just pitching other ideas for Sky Sports to fill their time.
Don't worry. Listen, we've got lots planned on this show, believe me. We've got the wonderful Europa Conference League to talk about, which we are still involved in somehow in that competition. Although by the time we listen to this tomorrow, I can't promise you that we will be involved in that. But let's be honest about it, guys. It's been a crazy fortnight for Tottenham. And, you know, unfortunately, Rich, we'll start with you because Spurs and Antonio Kante are becoming far used to adapting and working around postponement of fixtures at the moment. And again, on Thursday afternoon, obviously earlier today, the Premier League confirmed that Spurs' match against Leicester, which was due to kick off 6 hours earlier, would not be played. And for Kante, that's his 4th match to be called off in just over a fortnight. That, of course, was snow at Burnley, that major COVID outbreak at Spurs, which saw those fixtures against Rennes, Brighton seen off, and now Leicester's own struggles with the virus put into real effect now, the match at the King Power Stadium. Rich, have you got any thoughts as to where we are at the moment and just what we're going to be facing in the next months ahead with regards to COVID and football?
No, it's. I think it's a very fluid situation. It's an unprecedented situation. It's something that we've never had to come up against before. Number one, health and safety of players must be a priority. So, trying to cobble together teams or trying to get players playing that just simply unwell it just isn't possible. It isn't feasible. I think what the Premier League has to do firstly and foremostly is just communicate out to the fans quite clearly what their plans and structures are. They need to get something in place with some parameters of what's going on, because we could be looking at situations now of, you could have a Man United Southampton game and Southampton get maybe 3 members of the playing staff, but 3 very key important players. If we lost Loris, Kane, and maybe Skip in the middle or something, that's 3 big losses. There's other areas we may be able to cope a little bit. So if you've got, say, a Southampton Man U, Southampton at full strength might have gone to Man U and got a draw. If they got 3 really key players out, that's it. It's game over, and that's 3 points to Man United. So you've got to be careful that you're not going to start getting skewed results by cobbling some games together and some not. So they've either got to sort of, as my old nan used to say, shit or get off the pot. You can't don't just sit there. You've got to do something. So either take a break, or because it just looks like games is going to be so disrupted and so skewed at the end of the season. It's going to be all over the place, because some teams could just be in an unlucky run of themselves being hit by the virus, or the team they're playing being hit by the virus. So you're going to get skewed results that way. And if somebody misses out from a Champions League place, which in the real world is a hell of a lot of money, if you're 5th, and you're in the cardboard cutout Champions League, you're getting 2 bob out of it next season. If you're in the Champions League, you write your own checks, isn't it? So this is big money to clubs that we're talking about here. So and the other thing that the Premier League also need to do is stop making fans an afterthought. They're an afterthought with TV scheduling. We get games like kicking off at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night, Southampton versus Newcastle. Sorry to pick on you again, Southampton. Southampton away at Newcastle. You've got no way of getting back from now on a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday night, but they just go ahead and schedule it. And like today, I think sort of word started getting out about 1 p.m. Or just before that. It looked like it was gone. The game was gone, and it was a good hour later before there was any communication put out at all. And Spurs were probably sat waiting to actually tweet it out, but the Premier League stopping them. Then Leicester put it out there, and then Spurs obviously followed suit. But at 2 p.m, that's the time a lot of people was either getting on the road or just about to get on the road. So, they've really got to start making decisions a little bit earlier and stop fans traveling, and just basically wasting their time going to towns that they just need not really go to because the game's off. So, we all understand it is a very, very fluid situation, but you must be clear and decisive and early with any comms.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. And come around to you, Rick. The irony of that latter postponement that Crackers was on about there, it will not have been lost inside Spurs, because the club had asked the Premier League after the Rennes match was called off last Thursday if they could postpone that Leicester fixture in order to face the French side in the Europa Conference League on Wednesday of this week, December the 15th. So the irony now, obviously, of Leicester having to cancel, which again, listen, let's be honest about it, it's completely out of their hands. They've had a number of COVID cases, no centre-backs at all whatsoever before this game. And then again, I think they're up to now, between 13 to 15 positive tests, or should I say results, which is obviously is Really, really scary. We understand the Premier League rejected the request twice as they sought to protect their own season. That was Leicester, which had to take priority for them. And they pointed to the fact that Spurs already had games in hand. I mean, from the outside looking in, Ricks, for you, taking the fan emotive cap off, can you understand just how we're in this situation where, it's hours before the game has been called off? Like Rich says there, not a huge amount of communication. Could more have been done to stop this?
I mean, first and foremost, we don't know the ins and outs. We don't know what's happening behind the scenes and who's making these decisions and why they're making these decisions. What we do know is that Tottenham and Leicester both asked for this game to be called off a long time ago. And that would have not only helped the clubs involved, but also the fans that was about to travel down. Because obviously, us as Tottenham fans, if we're talking about our fans, we've missed a couple of games already. We're missing our club. We're missing the football. It is Christmas time. Christmas time, we're used to having games every 2-3 days. So, like a lot of the fans are missing that too. And a lot of them were eager to go and watch and support. So, making that decision earlier, and especially when both clubs were asking for it, I think they probably should have done that. But it's not only been us this week, I suppose. Man United Brighton was called off pretty close to the wire as well. So, we're in a crazy time right now. I agree with a lot of what Jan Vennegoor was saying there a bit earlier. But yeah, I mean, maybe we just need to like just lock off the league and kind of take the winter break now, and let everybody not only get COVID out of the system, those that have got it, but also just kind of give it a bit of time for it to clear out of the club. Because as we as Tottenham fans saw last week before the rain game, the cases, were going up on the hour. Like Kante said in the morning, 1 point, the boys that turned up were negative, and then after training, we've got 1-2 more cases that are positive, which then means that they've spread it onto somebody else. It's going to take a bit of time for the symptoms to then kick in for the other people in the squad to then put out a positive test. So maybe we just need a break here. Yeah, I mean, before like Jan Vennegoor was saying earlier, before we came on, before it gets to the point where it's like we've got 45 games in hand and we could win the league if only we play these games in hand. Before it gets ridiculous, maybe it's time for a break.
Do you generally think we've got a chance, Rick, with 45 games in hand to catch City with 55 points ahead?
Well, when we've got 7 days to play them in, Ricks, I don't think so. Do you know what I mean?
Playing back to back every hour.
Yeah, that would probably be what would happen with us. Being Spurs, it would just be something ridiculous. But
I'll tell you. Yeah.
But listen, we're used to it, and I think we've had it for a couple of seasons now, Ricks, where we've had like a crazy amount of games in a short amount of time. It's happened so much. I remember, Mourinho complaining about it. I remember Poch complaining about it a couple of times. So it's not like it ain't something we've dealt with before, you know. So
I think what will be key, Ricks, and again we'll come on to this during the show, is how Conte's mentality in terms of really digging into those players, driving into the fact that these games that are building up in hand now, and almost knowing what you have to do in order to, like I say, get close to that top four. I think the good thing with Tottenham is they'll know exactly, because of our results and how they've panned out, exactly what Spurs need to do in terms of the amount of points to accumulate to get to where they want to be. So again, I mean, that's maybe one hand to look onto it. But I do just want to emphasise again, our thoughts with everybody impacted with COVID at the moment. Of course, Leicester City have had a number of COVID cases. Spurs, and I say anybody suffering from the virus, we wish you a very speedy recovery. And again, we have to emphasise, the podcast is designed to hopefully give people an hour or two of escapism away from what's going on in the world right now. And we feel like, I say, hopefully it does that for you, because there is a real serious situation in the world right now. We're not in any way, trying to disparage that or get away from that. I think that I'd say for many of us, this is an hour or two just a way to talk about something that we love in terms of football, Tottenham, and we're all disappointed the games aren't on. This is the thing. It is, again, an escapism where, you enjoy your football club for whether that be an hour or 2 hours. And I think the weird thing is now, like I say, we're really missing them, which is a strange thing to have at Tottenham, bearing in mind we've gone through the last 4 to 5 years. But let's bring Jake in. Jake, lovely to have you here. As I've said, Spurs have had to deal with a massive outbreak themselves at the club. They had 9 first-team players testing positive for coronavirus, 5 of them being the coaching staff, and a further staff around the club, and a smattering of players across that under-23 development squad. So within that pool that players Kante's had to been trying to draw upon, it's been a very difficult time for him over the past couple of weeks in terms of trying to bring some almost, you'd say, I wouldn't say discipline in training, but trying to almost bring a group together when one day he's playing with a player that he thinks will be in his team and he'll be training him. The next day, he's a positive to COVID. I mean, for a manager at the moment, Jake, is it almost impossible to try and build any sustained plans for the upcoming fixtures, bearing in mind what we're going for at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I dread to think what tonight's game would have been like if it had gone ahead, because I think, isn't it anyway that, I don't know if it was just from COVID or through injuries, that Leicester didn't have any centre-backs.
Absolutely,
and we can barely score. So it would have been sort of the opposite of the unstoppable force and the immovable object. It would have been the complete opposite, just seeing if what could happen.
It would have been Dagenham and Redbridge versus Oxford City in the was it Vanarama League? I think I'm being disrespectful to Oxford City there and Dagenham and Redbridge. Please accept my apologies.
Yeah, it would have been like putting a sort of a blind team against a blind goalkeeper and just seeing what happens. But I don't think we would have got anything out of it. But I mean, it would have been interesting, because it would have been interesting to see if maybe this is what it took for some of those fringe players who maybe didn't want to show up in the Conference League to maybe think that they could actually play in the Premier League and make a difference. I think you saw the LEITOT team yesterday. Was it that Dan put out? Then Alistair Gold did a few, and I think it was going to be. It looked like it was going to be Ndombele and Weeks.
I've got it here for you, Jake. I've actually got it here for you. I can read you out that team of what Spurs were going to have. So it would have been Lloris in goal, Tanganga, Dyer, Sanchez, Doherty, Winks, and Ndombele, Reguilon, Bergwijn, Dele, Kane. I can already hear the Twitter keyboards going in the background here. Already
not
going
sure whose
off.
Defence would have been worse.
I'm not sure, but I can already hear them going on the background.
I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, a lot of players weren't going to be back, and I know obviously some players would have tested positive. Obviously, we don't know; they don't let us know. And obviously, Kante's got a lot more insight and intel. So some of the players that were tested positive wouldn't have had any symptoms. So it could have been he knew full well that Son is at home isolating, but it's perfectly fine and is ready to go as soon as he's back. But we just don't know the situation. I just think they should have called it earlier. I think then they could have at least done they just could have done sort of a, what's it called, the circuit break within the Premier League, and at least brought football back over Christmas, which they probably lost themselves a lot of money. What they can do, I think, with the situation they're in now, is they're lucky that there's no World Cup this summer, because the World Cup is next winter. They can actually just prolong the length of the season rather than risking players' injuries by making everyone play a game every 36 hours. I think it might be an option for them.
Yeah, I mean, I want to come on to that because I'm interested to get your guys' thoughts in terms of, what does the rest of the season look like for Tottenham and in general for the Premier League? Because again, we'll touch upon it. I think over the weekend to come now, we've got 4 fixtures called off. Again, I don't think we've probably seen the last of that. It wouldn't surprise me at all if there's more to come on the basis of just how many clubs at the moment we're seeing posting positive results of coronavirus amongst their clubs. But Rich, to come back round to you, Spurs, as we said, had to deal with that big outbreak. And as we know, going back to that Europa Conference League very quickly, Rennes were heading off on their winter break following next Wednesday's game at Monaco, which again made it attractive for Spurs to try and fit that game in this week, which we know was pushed back by the Premier League. So as things stand now, Spurs, looking at it, they, on the back of advice from the Health Security Agency, reopened the first team area of Hotspur Way earlier this week. As that week wore on, as we know, the cases seemed to drop. For Spurs to be reopen those pitches for Kante, there was players there that he felt he had an availability to. There was 13, 14 players that I think That's what was being speculated throughout the week that might be available. Obviously, we couldn't put any names to them because, again, for medical records, you can't name, I say, who has got COVID in that Spurs squad unless they consent to doing so. But the irony is, like I say, is Leicester were the ones that actually asked the Premier League to postpone that game on tonight because due to their own cases they had, that had 9 first-team players out. I mean, Rich, would you not staggered alone based on the fact Leicester had 9 players out through coronavirus that at the time the Premier League simply refused to cancel it? Does that not baffle you for the amount they had there at that time?
Ricky, honestly, it's like the people that run the game, UEFA, especially, it's like football at all costs, isn't it? It's just like, this must happen. We just cannot stop this train running. We got to have football. It's like, I don't care. I don't care your legs falling off. Just get up and play football, man. It's like, it's staggering. I mean, we've even had sort of tweets this week of like, clever ploys by Tottenham, like, how clever to get this game called off, and it suits them, and it's this is bigger than football, Rick. This is the whole issue is even down to things like people's health, and if they've actually got it, your health is a private matter. So, if you've got it and you don't wish for people to know, that's your personal business, whether you're a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, or, or a footballer. Even down to COVID statuses, I've seen some really just awful takes on it. I was like Chiellini having his booster jab done, and Matt Lawson was saying, Harry Kane should really be coming out and almost having his booster jab, or giving us his COVID status live on Twitter. It's like, no, none of your business, not my business or anyone's business. Your health is a private matter. And this is where we've got a real muddied waters at the moment, because it's almost like your vaccine status or your health status, even if you have got COVID, is for public consumption. And it simply isn't, because that's an across the board thing. Just because you happen to kick a ball for a living and make the papers every day, or you're a fine actor like Ricky, or a fine comic like Jake, it's none of our business. But if you're in, just because you're in the public eye, a banker earning 15 million quid a year gets all the privacy in the world. If you're a footballer earning 15 million quid a year, it's almost like this is for public consumption. It's like that whole thing is just so muddied between keeping sport going, but like the bigger picture of people's personal health, their personal privacy as well. So this oh no, we've got to get the game going and that. No, like if these people are ill, they're ill, and that's it. And then you have to go, right, okay, don't play the game, and we'll find a way forward somewhere, somehow, further down the line. But at the moment, this game simply just cannot take place. So, but as soon as you start throwing a few quid into anything, Rick, every other principle that you normally that a normal, sane human being, a decent human being would like live their life by, or live their standards by, just goes out the window, because all of a sudden it's like, well, this has to happen because there's sort of 2 million quid for us in TV rights for this. So, please try and make this happen. So there has to be this real line between what's really important and then earning your money.
Absolutely. And I know many people maybe feel out there, people that, aren't massive football fans, they maybe feel that the players are almost being seen as guinea pigs, that, they're out there to simply perform, for the pleasure of us fans. And again, we have to really, I think, appreciate the fact that these players, the ones that do want to play, they're putting their bodies on the line every time they go and play this game. They're putting themselves in a bubble there, with not a family bubble. We don't say they're amongst 23, 24 players, whether that's staff members, whether again, that's just people in and around the club as well. I think, again, that is definitely, Rich, what you say there, a reason to really try and understand just, it's not just a case of football anymore. This is a worldwide pandemic. It's a very serious situation.
Yeah, but like, but like a lot of issues, societal issues and bigger sort of mankind issues, almost it's like, well, what footballers doing about that? Is like, here's COVID that everybody's dealing with, but yeah, but what's football doing about it? Why, this footballer? No, nobody asks what sort of Jeff Goldblum vaccine status is, or Lady Gaga's like status, or Jake's mate Jack D, like, or anybody. It just seems anybody that's a celebrity, whether that's music, film, theatre, comedy, they just go about their business. But all of a sudden, footballers, it just seems to be absolute public consumption. What's his COVID status? Is he ill? Has he got COVID? Why is he out? Is he recovered? How's he feeling? It's like, people are entitled to their privacy, but footballers always seem to get pushed to the front of like, here's a big issue. What does football feel about this? Or what's football doing about this? And like, sorry, but not this time. It's not just a football issue. It's a big issue.
Totally agree. Rick, let's come back around to you. We saw Brendan Rodgers actually say that they looked at the case, and I must make this point actually very quickly. Craig Bowler on the screen does say to me that, although I said it was 9 players at the time that were suffering from COVID, I think I have to mix into that there was illnesses amongst the squad and injuries. So, Craig, I take your point there. But I think suddenly since then, I must say, I think Leicester's case have shot up to, I think, over 13 today. So, again, in amongst that tells you just how big that issue has been for Leicester in terms of the amount of coronavirus cases around the camp, which subsequently for them has meant they've shut their training ground and, as I say, ceased operation for the moment from a footballing perspective in terms of the training. But Rick, Brendan Rodgers said that we looked at it, but unfortunately they weren't granted dispensation. And it's disappointing because as a team and a club, we have always wanted to support all the measures. Has Brendan Rodgers got a right to be frustrated by just the lack of support from the Premier League on this one?
Of course, Ricks, of course, and it's crazy because it is a developing story. Even though that COVID's been around for 2 years now, it's still developing. And it seems like it could be an easy answer. Once you've recorded a certain number of players, that, okay, the game should be called off, or that club should be put into quarantine for a minute until they can recover. But like the boys are saying, and like we've all known for the past 2 years, we've all been wearing face masks on the train and in the shops, and COVID hasn't gone anywhere. There's been a spike. There's been a massive spike. So now I think the league have got to kind of look at ways in which they can prevent this from happening. I mean, whether that means, when players come in the morning, they get in an hour earlier, or they start training an hour later, and they all, like, for instance, at Tottenham, we've got the lodge, the hotel. So, when they come in the morning, if they all go into their rooms, get their test done, wait an hour, and then start training, maybe that's a way of kind of doing it. Or if you register a certain number of players, it should just be, once somebody's confirmed it, once an official's confirmed that it ain't somebody trying it because they've got some injuries, that there is actual cases and there is an actual kind of spike and an outbreak happening, then, it should be automatically locked off. Like, I don't understand the confusion with it. But again, the reason I don't understand the confusion, because I don't understand the parameters of which the people with power are making these decisions. Like Rich was saying there, this is a world problem, and it calmed down for a while, but it hasn't gone anywhere. We do have to learn to kind of, to live with it in a sense, because I don't know whether it's going anywhere for another year. Are we going to be in the same position next year? I don't know.
Yeah.
So there has to be, some kind of flexibility, and there has to be some protocols that go in for the players, as well as us, humans, as well as us people that are walking on the street left, right, and center, and trying to get our Christmas shopping and stuff like that. But it's crazy. It's crazy. Me personally, I'm just so frustrated with COVID. I'm over it. I'm just like, please, I'm done. Do you know what I mean? I'm done. You know, but it's a real life problem. There's people getting it, and it's not just, some people that haven't got it just see the word COVID, and like myself. So touch wood, I haven't got it as yet, and so I haven't had to deal with the symptoms, but there are long-lasting symptoms. I've got friends that are still getting their taste back and stuff like that, and and some go into cold shivers and kind of fevers, and a dizziness. Standing up can be dizzy and stuff like that. And so if some of the players have got it, it's not just like, oh, they've got it and hopefully 3 days later they can get back to training and get on the pitch for a fast-paced Premier League game. They need time to recover and then get back up to speed. So we do need some kind of protocols, some type of rules and regulations that could help this situation, Rick.
It's interesting, Rick, because I felt even last season with the Premier League, I felt there just needed to be more clarity. Even when Arteta got the virus, and the lack of communication, throughout that period as to what was going to happen with the Premier League, it almost felt like it was enforced upon them because we went into a lockdown. And I'm not saying 1 minute that I don't want football, because obviously we rely on football through the podcast, right, to some degree. And people are thinking, what about the last 4 shows? But we still rely on football. We still need Tottenham, in all I say, to be able to talk about Tottenham and to make the last one on Spurs what it is. I mean, Jay, coming around to you, at the moment, you look at the Premier League, and again, the rejection from both clubs, as we understand, because Spurs also tried to get the game called off as well as Leicester. It ended up meaning that Spurs went with an understrength squad, travelled on Wednesday afternoon up to Leicester, where they booked into a hotel. Then on the Thursday morning, like I say this morning, they then waited for the game later on that evening. Then they get word very, very late on, almost 6 hours before, the game isn't going ahead. I know we've already touched upon, from the Premier League perspective, Jake, the real lack of communication. How do you think the players are feeling, Jake, on this point? Do you think they're comfortable with the travelling? Is that difficult to answer?
Ndombele will be happy. He doesn't have to play. he can't believe his luck. But well, the players, I think, to be honest, I don't think they mind, because as Kante said the other day, they have to go back to their families and stuff. They don't want to be playing Leicester if there's a virus around, just like any of us wouldn't want to go and play with 11 players who might have COVID. But to be honest, I personally didn't think the game was going to go ahead tonight, to the point where I don't have BT Sport, but I was going to buy the month pass so I could watch the game before I came on here. And I was like, I'm going to wait until about 5 minutes before kickoff, because I know what's going to happen. And luckily, it would have been the worst time to buy a month pass before there's literally no games on. But I don't think the players will mind, to be honest. I think that they didn't seem to mind when they went up to Burnley and it was snowed off, and that was probably a lot worse, and they wouldn't have been able to expect that. I think there would probably be a little bit in the back of their minds today, even whilst training, with them thinking this might not go ahead. I think it'd be interesting to ask and see what the actual players want. But if both clubs are trying to get the game called off, then I assume that all the players wanted it too. So they're probably just happy they don't have to play around a load of players that are clearly infected. Especially, it would have been terrible for us if the players of ours that weren't infected went and played and then got infected, and then suddenly we've got 2 teams, which is sort of actually what Nuno tried to do a couple of weeks ago. Maybe he was thinking ahead of things when he left 11 of them at home.
Maybe there was a method to the madness there, when after all.
It turns out.
Do you know what? I mean, at the moment, I say things stand. This follows for Spurs. When you look at the games that have been called off. I mean, Watford's trip to Burnley was called off just 2.5 hours before kickoff, and that was on the previous evening. We saw Manchester United game against Brentford being postponed on Sunday's match, and then obviously we saw subsequently, before that, Spurs Brighton being called off. I mean, we've seen Brentford manager Rich, coming over to you, Thomas Frank, call for all of the weekend's Premier League fixtures to be postponed. So he does seem to be taking the account that he thinks there should essentially be almost that break. And we are going to come on to maybe in the second half of the show to discuss where we do feel the Premier League needs to go. But would you support that, Rich, as a fan, actually having a break from the weekend's fixtures in general, or do you think there is a need and a rhythm? Because obviously people are looking at Kante. Spurs were just getting into their groove, you feel, just getting used to the way Kante plays, the style of football. As fans, we were all getting very, very excited. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, do you know what? I think maybe this weekend, just like take a little step back, have a break, see if it helps. I think it might also give the authorities running the game a little bit of time to come together, maybe meet with clubs, meet with chairmen, meet with managers, maybe some senior players as well, and just try and discuss what everybody's wants and needs are in this, and just try and find a way forward, because I think it's quite clear, as Ricky said earlier, this isn't going anywhere. You know, this is like, you know, this is variant number 4. I think there's something like 700 different variants of flu. There's 200 different variants of colds, you know, and here's another virus, which is different to those two, by the way, but you're going to get lots of variants. So I think this is something we're going to be having to live with, you know, for forevermore now. So I think really it just needs to be this pullback and trying to find ways of making the best of it. I don't think there is a utopia with it, Rick. I don't think you're actually going to find a way of getting football back and having it like to everybody's taste, because even with the restrictions themselves, as we've seen, I've been reading the comments, there's people out there that are like, no, come on, we can't keep stopping. Let's get back out there. Let's not be fearful of this. Right through to people saying we need to go back into lockdown, and every opinion between one end of the scale and the other. So there's no easy answer with this. If you don't have fans at the stadium and put players into bubbles, like, you know, Spurs are incredibly lucky. If they try and find a way where we have, like, you know, these bubbles that they sort of had in cricket, where, you know, there's no contact with the outside world. We've got a beautiful hotel at the training ground now that all the players can stay. But again, you're starting to infringe on people's lives, because they're not going to see children, they're not going to see mums and dads, they're not going to see wives, you know. And believe it or not, people, footballers are people. You know, they have wives and kids and mums and dads that they love, and mums and dads that are getting old and ill and you know, and everything else that you, I, and everybody else has. They have these things. So if you take them away from their family units just so they can do their job, that's not an answer. If you take fans away from stadiums to try and stop the spread, we all saw what football was like when we had nobody in the stadium. Like sort of 50% more, possibly more, of the Premier League's product is that atmosphere. This is why people tune in from all around the world, because they love that. They love hearing that atmosphere at English football grounds. You know, you go out to Asia and places like that, they love it. They love to hear the songs, and they love to hear the atmosphere and the great. So, you know, all of a sudden you're diluting that part of the product. So it is really, really difficult to find a silver bullet answer to this. But if we do take a break this weekend, they may be able to just have a few days of, as I say, coming together, the Premier League, the FA, the clubs, senior players, chairman, and see if we just can't find something that, you know, works to maybe a 75%, 80% for everybody, if you see what I mean. It's not going to be easy, and I don't know if that is there, but giving everybody a few days to draw a breath and try and come up with some ideas might be the way forward.
Yeah, no, I disagree with that. I mean, as we know, as things stand at the moment, the effective fixtures for the weekend are Southampton v Brentford, Watford versus Palace, West Ham versus Norwich, and Everton versus Leicester. Again, it's an ongoing developing situation. So by the time you listen to this show, maybe on your, way to work or working from home, or wherever you, are watching this, again, that figure may be added. But we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. Taking into this break, you're going to hear from Anna from Spurs XY, who gives you her thoughts from Spurs' latest game for the women's. When we return, we'll be discussing, hopefully, Tottenham Hotspur playing Liverpool to come. And also, we have got a crucial League Cup tie against West Ham, which again, we have to say this now. Hopefully, it's going to be going ahead. There's so many games with Tottenham backed up. And again, we'll be discussing what that looks like for Tottenham. For watching audience on YouTube, at nearly 300 over of you watching us live, thank you so much as always on a non-game night where, quite frankly, we're making this up as we go along. And some are loving it. We're trying our best to do so. Jake, let's kick off with you because, again, we're in that situation now where, as we've discussed, quite frankly, although Liverpool is subject to being on this weekend, I think none of us will be surprised if that game does get called off due to the nature of what is happening right now in the world and football in general. So I want to ask you a question from a footballing perspective now. Does this suit Tottenham having all these games in hand? Do you generally believe it's an advantage to know what you have to do?
Well, there's a few reasons I think that it's an advantage. One is because Kante kept saying that he didn't have enough time to work with the players and he hadn't had time. So now he's definitely going to get that, even if it's via Zoom, whatever way, he's going to have a way to sort of work with them and do tactics. If we play Liverpool in January, then they've got players at the African Cup of Nations, and that works in our favour because that's Salah and Mane. And I don't think any of ours. I can't think of any of us. But
no, not at the moment. No.
I think. I mean, it feels bad to say because we're talking about a pandemic and a virus, but I think it's actually worked in Tottenham's favour, especially if when we do start to play these games, we've made a couple of signings that Kante needs and that we definitely needed. You've just got to hope that Levy doesn't sort of use this as an excuse as to why we've lost a few funds and can't spend, because I wouldn't put that past him either. But I think it's worked in our favour. But I feel really bad saying it. But I mean, if we can play West Ham in the Cup, I mean, actually, it's probably quite a good time to play West Ham at the minute. They seem to be sort of stalling a bit. Although obviously the most Spursy thing for them to turn up against us because it's always their final anyway. But I think it would have worked out in our favour. I think that we're going to have had a rest, which Kane maybe needed, Underbelly obviously always needs, but a lot of the players will have needed that rest. I think Kante gets to work his tactics a bit. He gets to see which players he can use. He gets to bring a few players in. And the good thing is, I mean, personally, I don't want us in the Europa Conference thing. Well, to be honest, I mean, now if I didn't want it, I didn't want us to be playing in it, and now we're not playing at all. So you've got to be careful what you wish for. But I think that if we didn't have that, and then we can play them like we can midweek games, obviously we're going to have, I think, probably more than anyone else because of the Burnley snowed off fixture. We're one of the first to go.
Yeah,
if everybody else does, it'll be classic Tottenham, always in the headlines no matter what, even if we're not playing.
Yep. Well, of course, we've obviously got Brighton now to fit in as well, and obviously again now Leicester. I mean, Rick's coming over to you. You know, we saw about all these games now being backed up, and I think I've seen again diverse amount of comments here. Some people don't think it's an advantage, but with Kante, I've always felt he's one that can tap into the mind, and I think we have to remember, Conte's Chelsea side, they went 13 straight wins to stop Tottenham from winning the title that season. So they have got Conte's teams almost have an ability to churn out the wins, and again, it's just so disappointing because you felt with Tottenham we were just getting into our rhythm, as I said, where you almost had that build-up between, going to faces the Brentford, the Norwiches, and I think it would have been good to kind of have that step up to the Leicester away, but then the potential, Rick, of having to go straight into Liverpool with very little match time. And I think this is a key thing, having games, it's different to training. And again, you have to add into the fact that, Spurs, they may have some players back from COVID. I don't know whether that's going to be so much of a bigger jump to go straight from playing the likes of the Norwiches and the Brentford to then go straight into Liverpool. Does that concern you at all, Rick, for you?
Yeah, a little bit, Ricks. I mean, we do well when we've got rhythm and momentum, and we was just building that up. And I think you summed it up great in the sense of the games that we had there were a great way to kind of just keep stepping and put the building blocks in that Kante wants, to go into a game, and especially against Liverpool, who are they're on fire. There's no other way of saying it. You know, they're playing great football. You know, Salah scores when he wants. You know, and they're playing, and you know, the football that they're playing is really quick, rapid. It's skillful. It's one touch. There's a lot of good that they're doing right now. So going up against them after not having any warm-up games or anything like that, you know, or coming out of our rhythm and momentum, I think it could be really difficult. I always prefer the points on the board. I've always been that way, you know, whenever we've had a game in hand or whenever somebody else has had a game in hand over us, I've always preferred having the points, because in the Premier League, you just never know what's going to happen. And you can't rely on one team to lose and another team to win. Many a time there's a little betting thing that my mate does called Last Man Standing, where you pick one team every week, and you know, whoever, you know, you can only pick them once, and by the time you get to the end, there's only one person last man standing, and that person takes home all the money. But there's been many a time that I've put, like, Man City have played somebody in the bottom three and they end up losing. Or I put in, like, somebody who's been losing in the bottom three to go and lose, and then they end up winning. This is the Premier League we deal with. You know, it's a totally different beast. So it's tough. I think it's going to be really tough for us. I prefer the points on the board, and especially going up against someone like Liverpool with their pace, with their power, with their rhythm, with their momentum. I think it's going to be a really, really tough game. It never is an easy game for us, is it, really, against Liverpool? It's always a toughie. And, you know, I think if the game does go ahead against Liverpool, I think they're going to have the advantage. But I then, looking at the silver lining of it, Ricks, I look at the first game of the season where we came up against Man City, and you know, they wasn't so on it, and we were up for it, you know, for that first game of the season. Best game under Nuno's reign, I still think, you know. So it could help, but I doubt it. I doubt it. The way that we play week in, week out, I think we need that, and especially with Kante. And just one last thing, Rich, before I move on. What is it? Oh, sorry, the missus is just coming in at the same time. Speaking about the vaccinations and stuff like that, when I was on the film, we was getting tests every 2 days, right? So every second day, we had 1 day off of getting those rapid tests, and that's the best way that we kept our bubble kind of COVID-free. You know, we all stayed in the same hotel for the 2-3 months that we were filming, and everybody, when I'm talking about, like, the hotel staff had tests every 2 days, the catering staff, the techies, the cast, the crew, the director, everyone that was involved had tests every 2 days for 2 to 3 months, and we managed to be COVID-free for the whole time that we were filming. So I don't know whether that's happening right now, but maybe something along those lines, or, you know, test every day, test every morning, like I said, before training. Maybe something like that could start helping.
Yeah, it's important you bring that point in, Rick, because I say we got new people that are joining, like I say, all the time, that have just kind of cottoned on and listening. Again, we have to, you know, put this point across that obviously we understand there's obviously a worldwide pandemic out there. And before I come to Rich, you know, some people will probably feel maybe football continuing as normal at the moment does feel increasingly unsustainable. And we have to make that point, that both in terms of public health and, less importantly, sport integrity, there'll be some out there screaming, well, hold on a second, maybe we should just, you know, like some of the guys have said here maybe tonight, have that break and then come back. But I think the problem you've got at the moment is that if you go for that break, you just don't know when you're coming back at the moment, because the nature of what we're up against. Rich, coming back round to you, this Liverpool game, that at the moment, as we emphasise, at the moment, it's still on schedule to be played, but we have to emphasise that can obviously change in the coming days, coming hours even. In a way, Rich, you know, Rick mentioned there about the Man City game, and the Kane situation almost gave the group a reason to be galvanised. Do you think in any way, Rich, with what's gone on in that camp over the last 2 weeks, they've seen their friends catch a very deadly virus that are coming back to recover now? Kante, almost in a way you feel, has had to really even become closer, tight-knit with that group at Tottenham. Does that in any way give us any advantage or any benefit having, I don't know, time with the manager to really plan out the course of the season here, or do you think it's difficult to say that when you just don't know at the moment an 11 that you can fill, when you know at any moment in time somebody can go from negative to positive in a matter of hours at the training ground?
Well, that's also the same for Liverpool, isn't it?
Of course,
Because
of course.
between now and the weekend, they could lose 3-4, as I was saying at the top of the show, they could lose 3 or 4 real key players. And then Spurs go there with every chance of getting some sort of result if they have lost 3 or 4 of those key players, but have got second string players to come in. You know, if they lose the right 3-4 players from that squad, then that gives us a chance. But this is what I was saying at the top of the show, where you're going to start getting some skewed results because Matt, if we went their full strength against their full strength, it's very difficult. It's not impossible. You know, the teams do go to places like Liverpool. I remember last season, was it, or season before? I think somebody like Burnley went there and got a result. It may well come to me. Somebody might put it in the comments, and you thought like, wow, didn't see that coming, or it was maybe a Norwich or somebody went there. So it can happen. But again, with postponed games, is there some validity in saying, right, okay, replay this in a month's time? And, you know, but you've got to have the same squad. Sorry, yeah, we are at home, aren't we, this weekend, you know? But playing Liverpool, you see, you know, the point's still valid of if they've got 4 or 5 players out, it's still a tricky game for us, you know? So, but with postponed games, is there, as I was saying, a validity in saying, right, okay, replay that game, but you can only use the players that was available at the time when the game was postponed. But then that opens up to malevolence of like, oh, well, you know, I know Salah was out and we was going to play Origi, but Origi's got a hamstring injury now. So, like, you know, you've got to allow us to play Salah. It's impossible. It's like, but, you know, as you were saying, with giving Kante some time with the players to maybe get them ready to play, they still have to play, Rick. Nothing will
match
get
fitness,
the
isn't it? It's not the same as anything.
You know, you can sort of prep them and prime them and prep them and prime them, but until you actually give them a game, Ricky and Jake will probably tell you. Jake, you know, I dare say plays a lot of the upstairs of pubs, working a bit of new material. You know, as comedians do, they go out there and they do a little bit of new material in front of 50, 60 people, a little bit of a test group, but nothing, Jake, I bet, sort of primes you up for them big shows you get when you get a big comedy store show. Ricky, the same. You probably do a few acting workshops and a little bit of, like, you know, sort of small theatre, again, above a pub, doing something and, you know, getting involved. But then all of a sudden a film comes along or a big theatre production, and all of a sudden the juices are going, aren't they? You know,
absolutely,
you know,
bro.
I'm the same thing doing my Spurs Legends nights. You know, we get some where we get smaller crowds, and then all of a sudden I go over to Dublin and you've got 300 people in a room with Ledley King. And it's like, you know, you're like, wow, here we go. Like, you know, there's just that little bit of something. So Kante can prep them, work with them, work on 4-4-2s, 3-5-2s, but nothing's going to beat that feeling of playing football, and especially in front of a crowd as well. Every footballer will tell you when we were playing and there was no crowds there, we saw some crazy results, didn't we? How many away?
Well, I think the Villa game, was it 7? They beat Liverpool, was it 7-1, 7-2 Liverpool?
It was just like, you know, because it skewed the whole atmosphere, and the vibe of what they normally do is skewed. So, you know, it's going to be difficult Sunday if it goes ahead, you know. So let's see. Well, I think we've all learned with living with this COVID. It's now Thursday. Sunday's a million years away.
Oh yeah,
to
absolutely.
Be honest. It really is. So so we're just going to have to see. It's a day by day. It's poco poco, as they say in Spain. Little by little.
Quite literally. It's weird, isn't it? It feels, I say, strange sometimes. I talk about football when I say it feels like the Norwich game, as you said earlier, Rick, it feels such a long way ago now. When you're viewing, Rick, at the moment, that kind of battle for the top four, and again, we have to emphasise that, listen, Spurs, again, they may be on Sunday, with what's going on right now, as we said, who knows? Has it changed for you, Rick, over the past month or so when you've got those games backed up and you almost know what you need to do? And we've talked about Kante's mentality. Does it change your view of that top four being more achievable now than what it was maybe a month or so ago?
I mean, it helps. It definitely gives you something to aim for, but it doesn't change that, we're going to be going game by game. And every game we want and need to win. Do you know what I mean? Like, even before the games in hand, we was looking and we're like, oh, we're only 3 points, off top four. We're only 4 points off top four and stuff like that. But we still need to play those games and win them, So, one of our games in hand, technically, if we play Liverpool on Sunday, that's going to take up one space, right? One game, an extra game played. There's 3 points of not 3 points, So we've just got to go. I think the remit is simple. We've got to go game by game, and we're looking to win every game. We are. Kante's that guy. Like you said about the 13-game winning streak, he's that guy that's going to be thinking about that. And I mean, the more other teams play, and it concertinas a little bit, and we can see that we haven't played in 3 or 4, and we're still only a couple of points off. It makes it, maybe it can increase the encouragement. Maybe it can increase the energy amongst the squad to be like, it's achievable. But we've been here many times.
Yeah.
We've been here many times. I remember when we was 1 point off top four, and we finished with one point. Yeah. And then on the last day, do you know what I mean? We don't want to have to mention Lasagna Gate and
no.
Listen, we've been there. We've been there.
Of course. No, I totally agree.
We need the points on the ball. Take it one game at a time, and we need to win. That's it. Doesn't matter who it is.
No, I agree on that. I mean, it's interesting, Jake, what Rick says there about, going game by game. And, with Kante and Tottenham in general, you do feel that there is, as we said, there was that steady momentum building. I just wonder, Jake, from your perspective, has your expectations changed at all on Kante, bearing in mind the decent start he's had? Or, again, is it still, in your eyes, almost still a bit of a transitional season, but with one eye thinking, that top four, the games we've got backed up and knowing what we need to do, is that achievable and realistic to have that aim?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was one of the few people who, when Kante came in, I'll tell you what happened actually. I think it was when it was the United game, that Nuno thing. And I was generally laying in bed and I was thinking, what happens if we just decide, Tottenham as a football club, it doesn't work, shut it down, and we all just move on. And I was thinking, is it going to get that bad? And then I saw online that Kante was coming. A rumour, I'm sure none of us believed it until even now. Sometimes I still can't believe it.
Yep.
Still now it takes some convincing. But I fell asleep that night just dreaming of it, thinking, imagine if finally we've got, because obviously we all loved Poch, but I think early on we're talking about how Liverpool's always a tough game. And I take Liverpool. I think as much as Klopp winds me up, I just think he's just obviously good at his job. He knows what he's doing, and the belief I have in Kante, I've just not had it. I mean, sometimes Poch would, we can all look back with rose-tinted glasses, but there was some mistakes here and there, like Lucas Moura in the final. Maybe obviously we all sort of wonder about what could have been, but that aside, Kante is the first one I properly believed in. I remember sort of when I was younger, even, and we had like Jerry Francis. I was thinking, why can't we just have a manager that's sort of exciting that we sort of get behind? And we never quite. And Poch was the closest we had to that. Mourinho, we thought could be. Kante, as soon as he came in, I was thinking top four. I think if they're going to give him the money, if he's going to have, obviously, I don't think I'm not in the belief that he needs money, but he's obviously needs the players he's going to get are going to cost, because obviously he needs the quality that sort of matches him. I think with January coming, and I think United sort of slipping up a little bit. I thought like Arsenal going all up and down. Ricky, you just see my message in the private chat. I was trying to go for a wee, so I didn't want to just run up. I wanted to make sure you'd seen that. I'll go in a second.
No worry. As long as it's Eric Dyer going for the shit, we won't broadcast that one.
I wanted to make sure you'd seen that in case you forgot to mute me and suddenly you could just all hear me go away. So I thought I'd leave it. But this is it's made my answer more passionate because I'm jiggling up and down trying not to go over my desk.
Sorry, need to piss. I tell you, this is great. You go back. Should we just keep them going here? This is better than the game, isn't it?
Get so excited. But
we must let him go if he doesn't need to go. Honestly, Jake, if you need to go, absolutely fine. We'll come back round to you. But no, I think what you said there.
I'll be back in a second. But I hope that makes sense.
Fine.
What I was trying to say is I think we can do top 4, even though this is a transitional season. And I think that even knowing what we've got to achieve will help us. I think it's going to be an advantage, and I'm sure other clubs will let us know on Twitter that it was an advantage. And if we don't make it, we'll set it as a disadvantage. Yeah. But personally, I believe for the first time in a long time, and I think top 4 can be ours with a couple of signings. And that's why I think having the big break and not having to play these games with the squad we've currently got is an advantage. I'll be back in a minute.
I think it's so impressive to sort of piss yourself.
Jake, don't forget to switch your microphone off, Jake, or else it's going to be like one of those fall asleep hypnosis tapes where you can hear water gently trickling in the background as Ricky talks you to sleep. You are feeling sleepy, and a bit of trickling water in the background.
Dear God, Richard's your room. Can we hear that in the background? I think he has.
Yeah, we can hear it.
Listen, you know what? I watched Naked Gun last night. Where
what a film!
goes
Honestly,
to the toilet
I love that.
And he has like a
listen,
half an hour window.
Listen.
He's taking his hands free. That's why he's taking his pods with him.
Who needs football matches?
He's not going to wash his hands. Let's listen. If he washes his hands.
Wash his hands. Yeah, let's hear.
We've got a flash.
Where is this show going? There's
his
that.
hands.
Yeah, there we go.
He's a good guy.
We always promote on this show. Don't you worry about it. Always promoting the right way to go. I feel wrong going back to football now. Rich, is your perspective changed at all, Rich? Waiting for the fart.
Better out than in.
Oh, I'll tell you, Jake, we've had fun here.
You muted me then. I had these in my pocket.
Honestly, you're all fine.
I said he'd do it. I said he wouldn't mute it.
Did you not mute it?
I didn't.
I had them in my pocket.
I thought you had the ability to mute from your end. No, right, Jake. The camera was.
We're all glad that you flushed your toilet and washed your hands, mate. That's all.
Your hands, yeah.
All right. We're just happy that you done that.
Jake was waiting for the cheeky little air biscuit as you was having a tinkle then as well. You go, name that tune in one.
Oh, well, with no games to play, whatever fills the time.
How do we come out to talk football after this? Rich, let's attempt it, Rich. Has your thoughts, Rich, changed on Kante from... Has your thoughts changed on Kante, Rich, since you came through the door now? A month, it'll be 6 weeks in now. Has your expectations of him changed? Bearing in mind, we've got these runner games back to back. Well, what will come up? Knowing what we have to do to ultimately achieve, hopefully, a top 4 finish. Is that realistic to think that?
Oh, man, I think it is. Oh, sorry.
I didn't know if it was Rich or Rich.
I said Rich.
No.
I said, where is this going, this show? I said Rich. I did say Rich.
All right, you go, Rich. You go.
And then Rich comes in after.
I did. You know what, Rick? He's quality. He comes with premium, doesn't he? We just knew that he was gonna throw everything at it. I hope Ricky ain't going for one now. At least he's muted. Anyway, back to Kante. He's class, isn't he? His pedigree speaks for itself. I liked what he was doing. I love his passion. I love just how much he was kicking every ball on the sideline. And, it was fantastic to see. And you could see it beginning to rub off on the players as well. And it is such a shame to see that halted and stalled and stopped and start. it was going to be a bumpy ride. It was almost like where Spurs are because of the type of club he's come into, and he's never really come into a club like that before. That's maybe so low on confidence and so needing players. He almost needed that 18 months you only get from him just to get us to somewhere where he needs to be. So, but so far from what I've seen of him, Rick, I love him. I absolutely love him. I love what he was doing. Look at a player like Davis. He was one of those players where you was going, oh, not Davis, to in just a few games, oh, shit, Davis is out. And if you can be a manager that can turn a player around to do that, then that's special. That's really good. There's players in that squad that aren't for turning. They're almost like Maggie Thatcher, in it. The lady's not for turning. And Delhi, forget it. He needs to go for him and for us. And Dembele, he just doesn't want to do it. So you can go. Bergwijn, there's talk of him going in January. He's not seeing something now that's going to get on board with Kante. Like I said to you, when Kante came, he's almost like a receiver coming in or an auditor coming into a bankrupt business, or a business that's going down the toilet, if you pardon the pun. And he sort of comes in and goes, right, you're an asset to this company. You can stay. You, not so much. You can go. We need to get rid of you in the fire sale. So I like what he's doing. Everybody's got to step up to the Kante level. He's the cream at the club at the moment. The board have to meet his expectations and his standards, and the players do as well. So as long as everybody's on board and brings themselves up to Conte's level and expectations, then we can go places and we can get things done.
What's interesting, Rich, obviously, since you've been discussing it there, what you're saying about Kante, is that we've just seen Chelsea draw against Everton. And the irony is now that Spurs, again, this is typical me putting the knockers on it here, so I will apologise in advance for this, but should Spurs win those 3 games in hand, we're only 3 points away from that Chelsea team that many were tipping, Ricks, that we're going to win the league potentially. And it just shows you in football, Chelsea have been, I think, over the course of the last few weeks, have been looking very, very dodgy. I'm not for 1 minute saying, that we're a better team than Chelsea but it just shows you that, if Spurs can get themselves together, pull themselves together, they've got a really good opportunity here of trying to get into that top 4, haven't they? With the right additions maybe in January.
They've got a great opportunity. But exactly what Crackers was saying there. Kante he's risen the level, he's risen the bar, and he's risen the expectation on the players themselves. I remember when Poch turned up, as soon as Poch turned up, I remember there was an article that came out that said, for the first time in ages, that we're not going to judge the manager. The judgment's going to go on the players. You either step up or you step off. Do you know what I mean? And I love that straight away with Poch. And I think that we saw that. We saw that with his kind of mix and match play with the midfield. Every season we had pretty much a different midfield, and he got rid of a lot of the dead wood. Right now, I think with the position that we was in before Kante turned up and the position that we're in now with him, the bar has risen. Conte's taken that, and he's been given assurances from Levy and the club that, all right, Kante, listen, if you come here, it's your way. We're not even going to look at the highway. It's just your way. You tell us what needs to be done. And, from the moment that he turned up, I said that I trust him. I said, if he plays Davies, Winks, Doherty, Delhi, if he plays all these players, well, then he must trust them. Therefore, I trust them. Do you know what I mean? And I gave everybody a clean slate like that, and if he wants somebody gone in the same vein, Ricks, if he wants somebody gone and those players can't turn up in training as well as on the pitch on a Saturday, then unfortunately, you know, they've got to go too. However emotional it is, you know, I'm an emotional type of guy, you know, like I love our players, you know, they're part of family to us. You know, I think it's really sad that, you know, what's happened to Delhi. You know, Delhi could have been a world beater. He was between an 80 million and £100 million player at one point. You know, he had the world at his feet. And the decline and the sink and the kind of, you know, the Titanic nature of what's happened with Delhi, I think is sad. Now, you know, I agree he might have to go, but I think it's sad at the same time, you know, because he was a boy, he was ours, and he fought for us, and he scored some dynamite goals.
Yeah, and not just for one season, for a couple. I think you're right there, Rick. I think this is the thing as well. When I think we're allowed to be, you know, you're allowed to have an emotional connection with some of those players, even if you do feel it's the right time to move on. You know, there's people out there that still, you know, like Harry Winks, he's a Tottenham born and bred guy, and why not? But you can still also appreciate when sometimes maybe it's the right time for a player to move on. You know, for me, I just wish, you know, Ndombele cared as much as Winks does about the club. That'll be my situation for me. You know, I think Ndombele's got all the ability in the world, but we're 4 managers in now. When are we going to see it? And that's the ultimate frustration. And again, you just look at that Spurs squad, and we do know there's a need to, you know, rejuvenate it. There's a need to move players on. There's a need to move players in. But I think everybody now feels that for the first time in a long time that, you know, there's a manager that you can connect with. And I've never seen everybody so together. And that's been a thing that, you know, since Pochettino, and, you know, Rich, you'll notice as well, you know, we had that real bond and connection with Poch where you almost felt like we were all going in the right direction. It does feel like that with Kante now, that we all know we're going through, again, we use that term, painful rebuild. But at the same time, we know that at the top of that tree, there's the right man in charge to lead us. And I think, again, that was massively questioned with the likes, of course, of Jose Mourinho, with Nuno. But I think there's no doubt now that we know there's the right man in place. It's ultimately, like Rich, you said before, will he get that backing to enable him to take the club forward?
Well, you would certainly hope so, wouldn't you? And I would think there would have had to have been some assurances, you know, massive assurances, and not let's see where we are, and, you know, COVID's like affected finances and this and that. And, you know, there's money around that club, but there's also there's a loan system as well. So, you know, we might be able to loan one out, bring one in on loan, and then you've not really sort of, I know you've got the wages and that, but finding the fees for these players. And, you know, if you're a player anywhere around the world, you come and look at those training facilities, you come and look at that stadium, you come and look at the whole setup, you come and look at playing alongside and under Kante. It's got to be an attractive option now, hasn't it? It's got to be a really, really attractive option. I mean, I'm not picking on Arsenal because they are Arsenal, but I am picking on Arsenal because they are Arsenal. If you come to London and meet with Arteta and look at their stadium and their training facilities and then come to us, there's only one place you're going.
There's no decision. And that's not being biased. That's just being honest, right? Yeah.
That's just being honest. Same like, you know, Chelsea may be a little bit different because Tuchel's a good manager, and the stadium's, you know, in pretty good nick, and they've got a good training ground now.
And they've had the history of trophies.
Exactly. But like, go to West Ham. It's an athletics stadium where you sit 3.8 miles away from the pitch, and, you know, the training ground's a load of porta cabins cobbled together. You ain't going to play there, are you? You can look at that, you're going to go, you're off your head. You've seen what Tottenham are doing and what they've got. So, you know, like you say with Kante, if Kante turns around tomorrow and says, you know what, Doherty's my boy, I like what I'm seeing from him in training, he's pulling up trees. And do you know what? I don't much fancy Harry Kane. Harry don't want to be here. So Harry's out the door January, and I'm playing Doherty. I'll go, all right then. I'll be a little bit, really? Okay. But you're Antonio Conte. Like, you know, what do I know? You're working with these people every day. You're seeing what's, you know, what's in them as players and what's in them as people, and not their ability and their passion for the game and their want to play for Spurs. So, you know, if he doesn't see that in Kane and wants him gone, see you later. And if he sees it in Doherty and wants him to stay, fine. And I think every fan has to give Conte that chance to prove that he was right. And the board does have to back him. They 100% have to back him, because everybody's in this same uncertain boat at the moment with finances and what's what with with games being played with stadiums full of people and that. So let's see. It'll be an interesting January window, but we have to back him. And I tell you what, Kante, I don't think is the type of man that will be wheeled out in a press conference and go, no, there was nobody that I really wanted.
Could you imagine that with Kante?
Yeah, no, he's not. He's going to turn around and he's going to go like, listen, until these clowns upstairs get their act together, like you ain't got a football club. See you later. I'm off to like wherever. So like, he's just not going to stand it. And if that happens, Daniel's in the madhouse. He's in big trouble. Big trouble. If Kante walks, I think got nowhere to go.
I mean, that exposes the board, isn't it? We've said that before. I mean,
massively.
That massively exposes the board. And I think the one thing with Kante is that you will get, as Rick has said, that emotive side, the honesty with Kante. He's not here to mess around. I thought what was making me laugh is after that NS Mora game where he came out, he's only in the job 14 days. He went, I'm happy to stay. You think, oh my God, we're 18 months in it. Don't do this to me now. You can't leave already. Someone padlocked the doors. Someone take the shackles. I think, like Lee said, take the shackles off Mourinho and put them on Kante. Don't let him go.
Exactly.
We have to always get a prediction. We're attempting fate here, right? We've done this for the last 3 games about getting a prediction for a game, and it's subsequently been postponed. But Liverpool is just finishing as things stand. Liverpool are 3-1 up against Newcastle United. They're in the last 2 minutes of stoppage time there. There's been no reports on any injuries, but again, we have to emphasise that. When you're listening to this show, if it's on your Friday morning commute or on your walk or wherever you choose to listen to the show, again, circumstances may well have changed. Let's start with Jake on this. Jake, let's come to you. Prediction, if this game does go ahead with the current players that we know are available, maybe based on what we said earlier when we heard about that, the suspect 11 that was going to play against Leicester, potentially from the standard. Do you think Spurs have got any chance against Liverpool at the weekend?
Well, I mean, I don't know what Liverpool's situation is. I think did somebody say that there was like 4 cases at Liverpool or something? So
they've had I think they've had a few cases as things stand. Again, when this show goes out, that may well have obviously gone up, or obviously circumstances change.
Because I mean, it sounds like actually, if it was more Leicester than us tonight, and Liverpool played tonight, there's a good chance that we are playing, and I didn't expect that, to be honest. But I think it might be a good chance. You've also got to think that Thursday now, and this game is Sunday, so there might be more players that we have back. We don't know. We could be back to full strength, even though obviously our full strength isn't what he really describes as full strength, but it's as best as we've got. I think, but we would have rested. We had a big advantage having the rest as long as we've had time to train. I would say we could go 2-2. I think it'd be mad for them to not score, but I think if we're up and our tails are up and we've sort of had a bit of a rest, and again we've got Kante, it just makes such a difference. You almost feel like you're getting an extra, I don't know, I'd say maybe an extra, almost a goal a game or something that you would never have got before, just for that for sort of willing it in, or maybe if he sort of just offers you you get maybe half a point push on just because you've got him that he's just pushing you over the line. I think that's it. So what I will say is this: whether the season goes ahead or not, I know you just want the prediction, but I will say what's happened, and to make it with the government issue is, and not what's so annoying is actually the Premier League are doing more than the government are doing, because they're actually shutting stuff down, they're actually cancelling stuff, whereas the government are sort of allowing the Premier League to take control of it, just like they're sort of suggesting pubs, restaurants, and us that we sort of work from home but do have parties. They're sort of making us sort of make up our own rules. So the Premier League are actually doing something, knowing I guess they're not getting that sort of any sort of backing. So the Premier League, I have to say, fair play to them. Even though they've been doing it, sometimes it's been late, and they should have shut it down if Leicester and Tottenham both wanted it to be cancelled. I should actually say that it's pretty good of them to take it into their hands with the money they're losing to go ahead to say we should cancel it. But I do think the game could therefore go ahead, and I think I'll go 2-2.
2-2. Okay.
I'd be so happy with that, because I dread to think what would have happened if we had Nuno there. I don't want to think about it. It makes me shudder. I don't want to think about it.
We might want to postpone it for another couple of years if that was the case. Let's go around.
Yeah, I'd rather down a pint of what I just put down the toilet rather than watching you now against Liverpool, to be honest.
Let's come round to Rick's. Rick's, obviously, subject to this game going ahead, we understand it's now a confirmed result. Full-time Liverpool 3, Newcastle United 1. Routine, as we probably would have expected them to brush aside Newcastle. What's your thoughts going into this weekend, Rick? Obviously, not really knowing what the squad is. We know Antonio Conte will hold a Zoom press conference on Friday at 1:30. He will bring us up to speed on just where Spurs are at in terms of availability of players, not naming names, but giving us some indication of just how the week has gone. Bearing in mind we've had another game postponed. How do you see it playing out, Rick?
I mean, it's less of a score prediction and more of a prediction of whether it goes ahead or not, sort of thing, isn't it? So
we can get both of you on, Rick. Yeah, give us both of them. Tease us.
So I think it probably will go ahead. I think we was ready for this evening, and if their cases are low, Liverpool's cases are low, then I think and they've played tonight, so I think there's more chance of it going ahead than not. And the score prediction, you know what? You know me, and the viewers and the listeners will know I never really back Tottenham to lose. Can't do it. Won't ever do it. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. Don't care. Don't at me in all of the palavers. Don't care. Don't, comments. I don't care. 2-1 Tottenham. All right. And last thing as well, I just to jump on on the back of what Crackers was saying there, Conte turning up has made us an attractive club again, and Paratici up there dealing with the transfers, them two as a partnership, we've got Batman and Robin there going on, and it has made us attractive to big players coming in. Now we can kind of go to Vlahovic, who has said he doesn't want to go to the Gooners. The agent has stopped taking calls from the Gooners, inquiring about Vlahovic. And there was a player, I can't remember the player's name right now, but he came out a few days ago who advised Vlahovic to go to Tottenham and work under Conte. So there are these, we have become attractive again. And I think January, with the free market as well, I don't know whether you guys have seen the boys that are on the free list right now, or you can speak to them from January for the summer. But, even Dybala's up there, so Frank, we're after Kessie. Kessie's contract is ending real soon. Insignia, there's a couple there. There's a couple there that are real quality where we could get them on a free, which helps us, do you know what I mean, attract, we've got Conte there, Paratici, if we spend on Vlahovic and get Dybala on a free, come on.
Agreed.
So I think the future's bright under Conte, and I don't think he would have anything less than a 2-1 win on Sunday against Liverpool. Come on, Spurs. Come on.
I love it. I love that passion. Rich, come over to you. There's comments here that are saying at the moment as things stand Liverpool. Virgil van Dijk, Fabinho, Jones, all testing positive for COVID-19. And obviously, people pick up on the fact that, Liverpool have played tonight, obviously this is a Thursday evening. Spurs have been off, obviously, the last couple of weeks. You obviously said earlier about your fear about the lack of match fitness. But people were saying that maybe Spurs having that freshness will help them against Liverpool. How do you see that playing out, Rich, for you at the weekend? Does that benefit us in any way?
Well, firstly, if Ricky thinks that Paratici and Conte are Batman and Robin, does that make Steve Hitchin the Joker?
There's a few more names for him, Rich, that haven't been broadcast on here.
Yeah. He's not looking forward to January, is he? Because he hates the transfer window, doesn't he?
No.
But, enough about him.
Maybe it was a riddle. Maybe it's a riddler, Rich. You know what I mean? You never know.
Could well be. It could.
Sponsored by Marvel.
Yeah.
DC. Batman's DC. Oh, goodness, Rick.
That's powdered milk, in it, Marvel. That's how old I am.
Oh, dear.
Listen, it's tough, Rick, because, like you say, we're fresh as daisies. Maybe we don't know what the fallout from being ill is, and if they're still feeling the effects of it. Some of the players fit enough to play, but not quite 100%. Liverpool have played tonight, so could be tired. But then they've got momentum, which we haven't, because we haven't been able to build any. So it's difficult to see, isn't it? Can Liverpool go again after playing tonight, then play Sunday? You know, it suggests that they would. The momentum will be greater than their tired legs. So, you know, Virgil van Dijk out is a huge loss for them at the back. But then it's only a huge loss if Kane can all of a sudden scratch something out and get the goal. But he has, you know,
absolutely.
he has been trying. He's been playing. I'm not buying into this. He's not at it. He is. He just can't get one together at the moment. He can't get one to go in. If he does, he's off and running again. You know, Shearer had this just before Euro 96. Couldn't hit cow's arse with a banjo, and then all of a sudden gets in Euro 96, gets one, and away he goes. So that's what Kane needs. He just needs to get one. He might get one on Sunday because like Virgil van Dijk wasn't there. It's, you know, it's all over the place at the moment. It's so hard to make any predictions, isn't it? Like you've got no chance of doing an ACCA at the moment, have you? Really?
Oh no,
like pulling off.
You got an ACCA to predict what games are going to be off. I reckon that's a good ACCA.
Exactly. It's like pinning a tail on the donkey. Personally, I don't think it goes ahead Sunday. I think we'll end up with this circuit break, fire break, call it what you like. You know, and just sort of draw back because there's games that have fallen over already. I think we can maybe, hopefully, get a draw out of it. I'd be absolutely delighted with a win. I'd be really pleased with a draw. If everything goes to form, it suggests that we don't get anything from the game. But there's so many variables at the moment. I hesitated to use the word variance there and variables instead. But I'll take a draw now. I'll snatch your hand off for a draw now, a 1-1 draw.
And you like to think, Rich, those 45 games we've got now, we might have a chance of winning the thing. What do you reckon?
Well, I mean, we 4:30 kick-off on Sunday?
We are. It's subject to being the LT for UK, for our UK listeners, that is 4:30,
So we're all done by 7 p.m. Then maybe we can just get ourselves up to up north and you know, play one of the games that's been postponed up there. Maybe kick off at 10, 11 p.m. Get that done. Come back down Sunday, and then maybe we can play Brighton. We just drive through the night on like a tour bus, and then we can play like Monday lunchtime versus Brighton, and you know, we can get all these games done and out the way in just like 24 hours, maybe.
I mean, I've got a feeling if this doesn't work out, we might have to have like a big FIFA. It's one for the kids. It's a big FIFA tournament where the players actually play as themselves on the game virtually against, you know, these teams to kind of get the result. I just hope we've got some good FIFA players in the camp.
Play via Zoom. Let's play via Zoom.
We'll watch that instead. We'll just watch that instead. Yeah. We'll still be bemoaning Winks for passing backwards. I'll tell you
I
what.
love the fact that I do enjoy the fact that Winks was one of the players that didn't get COVID. I was like, he passes side to side. Even his COVID test wasn't positive. Like nothing about him.
Poor bloke, I tell you, it's you know,
poor old Winksy.
Poor old Winksy. He always gets it, doesn't he, in the neck? And like I say, what's crazy there on the screen there from Simply Ace says, if we beat Liverpool, this is the big if, right? If we beat Liverpool, win all of our games in hand, we'll be 3 points behind Liverpool potentially. And I joked earlier about Spurs winning the thing. You know, as things stand, we're still on for the quadruple, lads. You know, we're still in all four competitions until Europa tell us tomorrow that we're out the Conference League.
Ricky, you know my aunt.
Oh yeah.
If she had balls, she'd be my uncle. Let's see. Leicester won the league not so long ago. So, like, crazy things. It's the Premier League. Mad things happen. Mad things happen. You know, if we went on to win this league this year, everybody would go, yeah, but like, come on. You know, it was a terrible, like, you know, it was all skewed. I'm still celebrating it like mad. Don't worry about that. I'm drunk for the year. I'm just like I'm taking it. That's the W, isn't it?
I think it's funny as this show's going, we're just getting different suggestions here. Craig Dearman on the screen says LOS, a new acronym. Listen while one shits. So I say we'll try it, Craig. Let's say with the lack of games we've got, who knows what we've got coming up on the last one on Spurs. I tell you,
I'll be back next week.
I laughed with Jason about this show turning into a golf podcast. The way it's going, this might end up being golf, and Jason might have to revamp it with Tiger Woods, and I will be gone for good. Like I say, Ricks and Crackers, and you guys can take the guest slot, Jake, if you like, and I'll go for good. My wife will be delighted. But we've had a flurry of listeners that obviously have come on since the games have concluded. So it's only right for me to take a step back, go for a break. Taking you into this break, you're going to hear from our listeners on audio. It's from the great Dave O'Cop, who gives us his thoughts if the game against Liverpool is going to go ahead. I'm going to leave you in the hands of the very capable Mr. Richard Cracknell, who has got another edition of his wonderful shit quiz that is going to end the show to our delight and give us some light humour on the back of what's been a crazy hour and a half. So, like I say, that's for our listeners on audio. For our watchers on YouTube, you haven't got to wait around. Richard Cracknell, hand over to you. Vinegar of Hesselink.
Thank you very much, Ricky. Yes, and it's the shit quiz. And Jake, I think this is your first time of experiencing this. Poor old Ricky had this in the studio, didn't you, that time when we used to do when the Spurs. And Ricky, and Ricky, of course, you've had this a few times as well. So I'm making this the Ricky versus Ricky because I see we've got two Rickies tonight. But Jake's more than welcome to chip in if he knows the answers. Okay, so we got two Rickies tonight, and I normally come up with a shit title and work backwards from there, don't I? So and I like to make my quizzes tricky. Like Ricky.
Tricky Ricky, I like that. Tricky Ricky.
So the Ricky shit quiz, Ricky tricky. I'll workshop it. I'll hire a space above a pub and workshop it. So it's the Ricky shit quiz. Okay. So here we go. You have got 10 Ricky-based answers to questions. Okay. Somewhere Christ. In there is Ricky. All right, so we got all the Rickies in there. Okay, so somewhere in your answer is a Ricky, and the first one to shout. Shall I get you to shout your name out to like Ricky?
You don't get anymore. I don't know if Rick did. You're the same. You don't get Ricky anymore like that anymore because it's so old now. No one even remembers these things. I feel so bad. Rick, do you find that he was on the cast as well? Do you find it's less and less now? You get that Bianca Ricky,
bro. And listen, I had it growing up, and
all the
as
time.
soon as I hit the show, I had it again.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, even before we go into this, I'll give you a quick story. There was every single woman in the square, all right, in Pat's living room at one point. Pat was in there as well, right? Bianca's in there. Everyone, all of them. Stacey, the lot of them. All of the women are in there. I can't remember why. Somebody's hen do. And, I'm there with, I can't remember, another character. I'm going to get him to strip for the stag do. That's the scenario. But anyway, we're in the set, which is the kitchen. All of the women are in the front room. They're in the kitchen waiting to be called on, and I'm there, and I'm having a chat with the other guy. We're cracking on, there's a lot to do in that scene. So we're not even listening really. We're just cracking on. And then supposedly the director's called me a couple of times, but I haven't heard it. I've stayed chatting. And then Bianca went, Ricky? And I was like, huh? And I was like, it was the first time I had the actual Patsy shout out Ricky
Rick,
for me,
like that.
and I couldn't believe it. I ran in. I went, you know what, Pats? If anyone can do it, I went, it's you. I'm here. What do you need?
I love that. That's fantastic. An exclusive from Ricky. I absolutely love that. Oh, that's brilliant.
Love it. All right. So back to the quiz. If you want to answer Ricky Sachs, you have to shout Sachs. Okay. Ricky Norwood.
I am back in school. Jesus.
if you wish to answer, I was going to get you to say Norwood, but I'm going to get you to say Ricky. Okay,
right.
if you wish to answer. So it's Sax or Ricky. Jake, you can just jump in with Jake because, like, you know,
Thank you.
me and you are Jan and Jake, so like we're not involved in this. All right, so don't forget, every answer has a Rick somewhere in it.
Oh
Okay,
my God.
so
Here we go.
question 1. He played the scientist dad in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Ricky. Damn it, it's gone. No, I've got a part.
Done.
Oh God, it's
Mr. Sachs, any idea? He
Oh,
played the
goodness.
science.
Rick something. Rick something.
Yeah, Rick something. Yeah.
Oh my God.
he done the bloody hell.
Oh.
I can see. I got it. Ricky?
Go on.
Is it Rick Moranis?
Hey, he's got it.
Yeah.
Well done. All right,
Oh.
1 point to Mr.
Oh, I would have been here all
Norwood.
night. I would have been into that Liverpool game in 2025.
Question 2 for you. Okay. A town in Hertfordshire, about 5 miles away from Watford.
Sachs.
Go on.
Billericay.
No,
Jake.
Jake.
Rickmansworth?
Yes,
Oh
Jake.
my God.
Get in there, Jake.
I've always said my geography was horrendous. There's that proof.
Not Billericay. Question 3. Okay. He played Arthur Chubb in EastEnders.
Oh, Ricky, that was me. Ricky Norwood. I played Arthur Chubb. I was there going, I know him.
All right.
Honestly.
Number 4. Scored the winner in the 81 FA Cup final replay.
Jake.
Sachs.
Jake.
Ricky Villa.
Yes, Jake's in.
Get in there, Jake.
As it stands, Jake's winning the Ricky competition. Who he's drawing.
Sums it up, doesn't it? Sums up the way this show's going.
Oh.
Question 5. A rebound, bounce, or skip off of a surface.
Jake.
Ricky. Oh,
Jake.
damn it.
Ricochet. Yes, Jake.
Damn it.
Jake's smashing the Ricky quiz. Can you believe it? It's scenes, absolute scenes. Spursy for you, Ricks.
I couldn't make it up, can you? Typical.
God.
Number 6. Okay. Sang Never Gonna Give You Up in 1987.
Oh, Ricky.
Jake.
Ricky, I had there first.
Rick Astley.
Rick Astley, yes. Well done. Number 7. Scale used to measure the power of an earthquake.
Ricky. Richter scale.
Richter scale. Well done, Ricky Norwood.
Bringing it back.
Bringing it back.
Bringing it back. Number 8. Okay, 3 more to go. Number 8. Comedian and star of The Office.
Oh,
Jake.
Ricky
Sachs.
Gervais.
Sachs, I had.
I tell you, Ricky Gervais,
what?
David Brent, aka David Brent.
Gervais. Okay, right, there we are. Got that one. Number 9. Sang Living La Vida Loca in 1999. Ricky. Go on, Ricky.
No bottom.
No,
Sachs.
going to move it on,
Sachs.
Sachs.
Move it on.
Ricky Martin, of course.
Ricky
Oh,
Martin,
damn it.
yes.
Oh, goodness.
And finally, played over 200 games up front for Southampton and 11 caps for England.
Oh, Ricky. Was it
Ricky?
Ricky Lambert?
Ricky Lambert,
Oh.
yes. Right, so we got Ricky Norwood got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well
Get
done.
in.
Jake got 1, 2, 3. Well done. And Mr. Sachs got 1, 2, 2. So there you go. So Ricky is the winner. Well done,
Get in.
Ricky.
Come on. Doing it for the Rickies. Come
Well
on.
I tell you, if people thought there's no games being depressing or being off, what's this? This is, the amount of, like I say, the love, like I say, from these shows is just incredible. Listen, guys, Rich, thank you as always for giving us the love, giving us the, like I say, the confidence, the belief that there's still so much to play for this season, even though there's no games on, but we're still going to enjoy it as much as we can. Can you tell us, Rich, what's come up in your diary when you're back over here in the new year?
Hopefully over back in February, and then all the end of February, all through March and into April. And so far confirmed is Chrissy Waddle in Bedwas down in South Wales. The Alan Cousins at Dartford FC in April, in March, sorry. Glenodle in Hereford in April, but that's a sellout. And yeah, one or two others just to be confirmed as well. So watch your space at Mr. Cracknell on the socials. And I'll put up the posters for all these nights all around the country. You got down in Leatherhead and Chessington, Dartford, Gloucester. Sounds like a train line, doesn't it? Wales. I'm also over in Limavady as well with Chrissy Waddle, and hopefully Dublin, restrictions permitting. So yeah, hopefully I'll get back over, and we've got some shows on the go. For myself and for Jake doing a bit of comedy there, and for Ricky doing a bit of theatre and film, and but we can all get together and go to football and have a few beers and just all be together again. But in the meantime, like while this is all going on, just everybody keep safe and well, and look after your family and friends, and the old girl that lives over the road, and make sure she's got a bit of milk and bread, and just have a good Christmas, everybody.
Oh, Rich, I must say, Rich, these Legends nights, and I'm not just saying this, they make wonderful Christmas gifts, don't they? Cut a ticket for those.
Yeah,
it's a really nice Christmas present. I have to bear that in mind. If you're really unsure, like I say, what to get your old man like me, I think cut the tickets to the Legends nights, almost like a perfect gift.
Oh, links Africa, sure. Pair of socks, sure. Some M&S underwear, sure. But Dad's going to breeze through them, and he's going to go, oh, yeah, thanks, son. Thanks, daughter. Thanks very much. Get him 2 tickets for a night out. Come and meet your old legends from the 80s and 90s and everything. You get to meet them and get a couple of bits signed and a selfie, and hear some great stories. Mum, Dad's gonna love it, So a few Legends Nights tickets.
Crackers, who's been your favourite, Cracks? I don't want to put you on the spot like that, but is there a favourite guest or a favourite story from the past?
It's do you know what, Rick? It is so difficult to pick. It really is. I mean, Stevie Perryman 900 games for Spurs is just stories for days. I mean, awe of him. Chrissy Waddle has some brilliant Gaza stories. Glenn was my idol growing up, and there I am sat on stage interviewing him. Ledley's brilliant as well. Ledley's got some great stories, and he's a sort of the mud's barely dry on his boots, from playing, and there he is, out sort of meeting the people. And Gary Mabbott, is a fantastic ambassador for the club and the stuff that he does. Rick, he's up to nearly 4,000 phone calls to Spurs fans, and phoning vulnerable and elderly fans and just making sure they're okay. He's incredible. Ozzy and Ricky that I work with, World Cup winners, so all of them, incredible. Clive Allen's mum was pregnant with him when she attended the 61 Cup final that won us the double.
Mad.
So Clive Allen went to Wembley when we won the double in 61, and there he is. It was the assistant manager to Harry when we was qualifying for the Champions League. I mean, what Tottenham heritage that is, because his dad Les was in the 61 side. Just, it's incredible, so Rick, I really can't pick one. They've all got their great tales to tell.
Even I think Rich, you didn't want to mention Holloway, didn't you? Ollie Holloway as well. I mean, let's say someone like that, current like that. It's not all just Spurs, is it? It's the different variations that come your way. That's
work with most people. Even some of the Arsenal boys I work with. Ray Parler's fantastic night. Sorry I work with him, everybody, but a man's got to eat and put dinner on the table. For the kids. But any of these nights, if somebody that's played football is nearby you, even whoever they play for, go along, because they're never really like, really Tottenham centric or really Liverpool centric or like
You'll find you've probably got a lot
over
in
the top.
common with what the stories they're telling, Rich, won't you? I presume.
You hear some great stories at these nights. So even if it's not somebody associated with it, like with Spurs, go along. They're really, really good nights. You'll have a fantastic night. You hear some great tales at them. So if they've got a story to tell, I'll sit and chat with them for an hour.
There you go. Amazing. Jake, let's come around to you. Jake, what's in the diary? What can you tell us? Where can we find your dulcet tones? Where can we find you doing all this comedy apart from us watching you or hearing you having a piss?
I will be on toilets in comedy clubs up and down the country. I'll take the microphone with me.
Brilliant.
But, I mean, if everything goes to plan, then I'm on tour with... Jack D and Michael McIntyre, and I'll be doing stuff with Kevin Bridges next year.
Nice.
If it all goes to plan, then that's the aim. I've just recorded some stuff for Comedy Central, which will be out early next year.
Fantastic.
So follow me on socials, and I'll give it a share. And you might hopefully see me at Spurs as well.
Oh, fantastic. I say, Jake, well, listen, we'll be getting on you plenty. Well, hopefully getting you on plenty this season. If there's hopefully games to talk about, and I say we'll be mentioning that, of course, throughout the season. Lovely to have you back on, Jake. Always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Our
I've asked for a
pleasure,
urinal for my office as well. So I'll get one of them put in. So
fantastic.
I don't have to leave the screen.
As Kev G says there, Toilet Tour 22 would be lovely. If we can make that happen. That'll be fantastic. And Rick's, of course, coming around to you. Of course, his brand new film out. We've had a flurry of new listeners listening since we last came out and mentioned. Rick's, tell us about this film. Come on, tell us where we can find it. I've watched it. My wife loved it. It is a real good Christmas special.
Well, it is called The Princess Switch 3. It is on Netflix right now. It's a Christmas movie, but it's wrapped up with a whole heist that goes on in between it, which I'm involved in as well. There's lots of hijinks. There's loads of stunts. There's loads of pretty cars and helicopters and princesses and there's loads of madness going on all at the same time. Great Christmas film to kick off the Christmas season. So if you haven't jumped into Christmas films yet, it'll be a great one to kick it off. So It is out now. It is there throughout December. And it will probably be there forever, really. But it also stars Vanessa Hudgens, who was in High School Musical, and she's just done a Tick Tick Boom Boom, which was the Rent musical film. She's done loads. And she's phenomenal. So check it out. It'll be much appreciated if you check it out and support. And let me know if you enjoy it. Let me know if you don't. I was never there. It was green screen.
We must also say, Rick's obviously in number 2 as well. So we haven't seen number 3 yet. Go and watch number 2 first, right? And then come watch number 3. Come watch them both.
Yeah, I literally thought you were talking to Jake about number 2s then, but no. Yes, I was in Switch 2 as well. There's 3 movies, so I wasn't in the first one, but I was in the second one and in the third one. So check it out. There's a trilogy. If you haven't watched them at all, do it. Do 1, 2, and 3, and just enjoy it while you're at home.
Loki's onto that right now for you, Ricks. He's loaded up the Netflix, as you see. It definitely will. He's on it right now. I can see him. He's gone onto his profile. He's going straight onto it. So for Loki's sake,
Loki.
For Loki's sake, we'll end there. Like I say, Rich, always a pleasure. Ricks, as always, lovely to have you back on. I know you guys on very soon. And Jake, like I say, we're going to get you back on throughout the season as well, of course. From Jan Venegor of Hesselink, from Ricky J. Norwood, from Jake Lambert and myself, guys, keep safe, keep well. We will be back after Liverpool, providing there's a game to talk about. And as always, come on, you mighty Tottenham Hotspur.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on.